You are Locked On Tigers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? Good Sunday afternoon. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers Postcast your destination following the final out. Tigers come up just short. 4-game winning streak comes to an end, 5-4 at the hands of the Toronto Blue Jays at the Rogers Center. But welcome one, welcome all. My name is Jake Rietma. I am your host of Locked On Tigers Postcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. As always, we thank you for making Locked On Tigers Postcast your destination following the final out. It's your first listen every day. And a reminder, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, on YouTube, Locked On Sports Detroit. Make sure you subscribe. Lots of fun things happening. And it's been even more fun as the Tigers have played such great baseball as of late. But fall today, still 10 out of 13. But it's all part of the Locked On Tigers Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. What did we see today? As always, we invite you to get in the comments right away if you're watching the live edition on YouTube on Locked On Sports Detroit. But man, that eighth inning was exciting. Couple of men on, and you thought there was a little bit of magic left for the Tigers in that eighth inning, but they come up just short, and you got to hand it to the play that was made on the Carson Kelly long drive. I was getting ready to jump out of my seat, deep drive, but Dalton Varsho makes an incredible catch at the wall that saved. If it would have been an extra bases, probably saved 2 runs, maybe a home run, whatever it may be. It wasn't meant to be for the Tigers today. Justyn-Henry Malloy did bring me out of my seat with that grand slam. I was fist bumping, yelling at the TV, screaming, and it was good. It was exciting to have that belief that the Tigers were once again going to make it happen this afternoon against the Blue Jays. And the grand slam from Justyn-Henry Malloy off the bat, you could tell right away that that ball was gone. Now, I wanted to make sure I have this for everybody from Tigers PR. The last time the Tigers hit a grand slam in back-to-back games, it was July from 28th to the 30th in 2013. So they accomplished that for the first time since 2013, and it marks the first time the team hit a grand slam 3 times in a calendar month since May of 2009. So Justyn-Henry Malloy helping in that with the grand slam a day and a game after Jake Rogers hit the grand slam. But it wasn't enough as the Blue Jays, led by George Springer. I kept kind of wanting to call him Jerry Springer, not Jerry Springer. George Springer had a big day, 3 extra base hits, 2 home runs, kind of had Keider Montero's number. And a little bit, I don't want to put this all on the bullpen and Will Vest, but when the Tigers were able to come back, take the lead 4-3, and then in the bottom half of the 5th, the Blue Jays get 1 back to tie it up at 4. In the bottom half of the 5th, my apologies. So move forward to the home half of the 6th. That's when Montero let the first batter get aboard, and the run technically does belong to Montero, who gets hit with the loss. He's 1-3, but Will Vest unable to come in and keep the Blue Jays off the board. So frustrating day, but I think in a day that had a lot going on, a ton of roster news, a couple of things shifting around that we'll get to here in a moment, as well as Jim Leyland's Hall of Fame induction ceremony, his Hall of Fame speech. There's a lot to discuss on this edition of Locked On Tigers Postcast, even after a losing effort from the Tigers today, 5-4. The final, Detroit back to 2 games under 500, 49-51, now 25-27 on the road. And the discussion, of course, until the trade deadline will always be there. What should this Tigers team do at the trade deadline? We've talked about that at length over the course of this weekend. If we want to get into it, we can at the later part of the program. But again, I want to get into everything else that we have going on with the team here and now with the roster news, as well as break this one down from what we saw in this afternoon's game. And then, of course, wrap it up with a look ahead to the Cleveland series, because make no mistake about it, we're going to find out a lot about this Tigers team in the next 13 games, because we've got 13 games against the AL Central. So that will be fun. And we don't have to wait long. No off day tomorrow, right into it with a 4-game series at Progressive Field against the Cleveland Guardians. So we'll talk about that, but a disappointing finish to this one, a very compelling baseball game from start to finish with the home runs for the Blue Jays. Tigers fight back with the Justyn-Henry Malloy grand slam, and then really made it interesting there in the 8th inning with 2 men on for Carson Kelly, who again was robbed by Dalton Varsho, who plays a terrific defensive center field, and he made an incredible catch up against the wall in that 8th inning. And then Blyde Madriz, who we called up instead of Spencer Torkelson. That's where this team is at right now. We've got Blyde. In Blyde we trust. He popped up. And then the 9th inning. I won't spend too much time on this, but the 9th inning at bat from Javi Baez was just swinging away, pounding it into the ground. Just such typical Javi Baez nonsense. And I got to give my buddy Jeff Rieger a shout out, because he tweeted out Javi's batting he's hitting 177 with a .451 OPS. I mean, it's just laughable at this point. And Rieger says, when is enough is enough? Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talk about what the Astros did with a former MVP and Jose Abreu, and this Tigers team continues to trot out Javi Baez, which I don't want to make today's show that there's too much good going on with this team right now to make that the focal point of today's show. Like I said, we'll get to the roster news, and I did want to correct myself. My apologies. I forgot, and I didn't realize Matt Manning was on the injured list again. So that I said that yesterday, that him not starting, but he's on the injured list. That's my bad. He went on the IL when I was on vacation. My sincere apologies, but read up, brushed up on all that. We're good. Anytime I make a mistake, I'll put my hand up and be accountable for that. So that's on me. But we move ahead from today's game. Let's get to the comments. Everybody chiming in already. We'll lead off with Jason Walter, and say it with me now. Sell, sell, sell. Yeah, that's the kind of reaction I was expecting here on a Sunday afternoon after the Tigers fall. It's their first loss in 5 games. They're still 10-3 in their last 13. And I think Jason's saying this tongue in cheek, because he was the one leading the buy, buy, buy chant, not NSYNC, the buy at the trade deadline chant yesterday. But it'll be interesting to see what transpires in the next 13 games as we approach that deadline. And again, all of those games, the deadline in less than 13 days. So I just said 13 because that's how many games the Tigers have with the AL Central here coming up. But Demetrius McNeil already in the comments as well. Appreciate your participation, saying 1901 was the last time the Tigers hit a grand slam in back-to-back games. Unfortunately, the grand slam was the only highlight of the day. Prepare for the pesky Guardians for 4 games. Rufus, the Motor City Kitty fan. We're so close to 500. Yes. And appreciate Demetrius McNeil with the circle back on the correction. Thanks to Tigers PR. Yeah, 2013, they had back-to-back games with a grand slam. But yeah, the Tigers are creeping closer and closer to that 500 mark. And now at 49-51. We said it on yesterday's broadcast or postcast that you just got to continue to stockpile series wins, which is this still counts as their 4th consecutive series win. And now 4 games on the road against the Guardians. Strange things can happen at Progressive Field, but I like where this team's at. And I think Dan Petrie said it on the post game right as they were closing out, not technically on the post game because it was right after the final out, as before Benetti and him send it down to the desk that Johnny Kane was occupying today. Dan Petrie just said, this was a good baseball game, and sometimes you come up short in a back and forth game. And I think that's exactly what we saw this afternoon. So no need to panic and sound the alarm. And I know we say tongue in cheek, sell, sell, sell. But it'll be, I don't think we're quite there. If anything, it's a maybe it's a holding pattern for where this Tigers team is at. But final score in this one, Tigers lose to the Blue Jays 5-4. We'll take a quick break and go over some of those roster moves that were made and what it might mean for this team and the impact that Kerry Carpenter's prolonged stint on the injured list could have. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Locked On Tigers postcast continues in just a moment. Locked On Tigers postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's real simple, my friends. All you do is pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, 2 to 6 stat lines, and watch the winnings roll in. It's that easy. I'm telling you, anybody can do it. It's a lot of fun, and that's why Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action. And unlike other apps on Prize Picks, all you have to do is compete against the numbers. You don't have to worry about sharks and a big pool of other people. No, it's just you versus the projections. And you know what? What's really exciting is right now you can win up to 100 times your money, 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Doesn't that sound pretty good? Absolutely. Get in on the excitement, win up to 100 times your cash with summer games on Prize Picks. That's right. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week. You can lower your select player stats projections on Tuesdays, so make sure you set your alarm for Tuesdays because that will help your lineup hit. Or even on Fridays, you can get your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states, and like I said, we've got over 5 million active members, so you know it's the real deal. I play Prize Picks all the time. All you got to do is download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. You pick more, you pick less. It's that easy. This episode of Locked On Tigers Postcast is also brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. You know the combination. It's passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. I'm talking superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, we keep it going with the roster news of the day, and then I do want to get into the Jim Leyland Hall of Fame induction in his speech. But before today's game, the Tigers made a couple of different moves, some of them that we saw coming, some of them that answered some questions. And we'll start with the Reese Olson news of putting him on the 15-day injured list. And AJ Hinch talked about that pregame today, saying he's got to just undergo a lot more screenings and tests, see the doctors. And so the 15 days is really just a preliminary starting point. And, you know, maybe it'll be nothing, or maybe it'll be something more significant. The extent of the timeline really is not known. What's known right now is that he'll have to miss a few starts with that, which is really, really painful, considering the amount of injuries this pitching staff has undergone, the toll that it's taken. And they're not alone in that. I'm not sitting here saying only the Tigers have been bitten by the injury bug, but man, that hurts a little bit. And even more, what hurts is, I guess I should say, the corresponding roster move. Easton Lucas, the left-hander from AAA Toledo, is called up. And then the other one that we talked about briefly, Bly Madriz is back from AAA playing first base for the Tigers, which if you would have told me before the beginning of the season that on Sunday, July 21st, I would be telling you that Bly is being called up to play first base and Spencer Torkelson's going to remain in AAA, I would be upset. I would be angry. And you know what? So I'm not going to focus on that because, again, if you would have told me that, hey, Tigers are 2 games under 500, they've won 10 of their last 13, and they're still in the wild card position and conversation, not position, not position. I did not say that, conversation. And we're considering whether to be buyers or sellers or stand pat at the trade deadline, which essentially means you're inching closer to that relevancy. I would have taken that, but I would never have expected it to include the conversation of Spencer Torkelson not being the one that's called up. I wouldn't have expected Spencer Torkelson to be in AAA, 30 home runs last year, but we don't need to make today's show about that. I'm just curious who else would be of that same thought process. So Bly's back up. And then the really, I don't want to say dagger because I can't remember who made the point on X, but one of the Tigers beat writers on X put that he was on the 50-day DL, and this designation to the 60-day. I keep saying DL, IL, you know what I mean? This designation of the 60-day IL doesn't really change a whole lot other than he's not coming back sooner than what we expected. So Kerry Carpenter to the 60-day injured list, which, gosh, the other part of me without zero medical expertise or insight or any of that. I mean, you guys know, there's no reason to listen to me on a lot of things, especially at the very top of that list is anything medical. But it's starting to feel like maybe it would be surprising if we see Kerry Carpenter back playing this year, depending on how it all plays out. I hope I'm wrong with that, but again, today's news, not our favorite. So Valade goes back to AAA. Reese Olson on the 15-day injured list, Kerry Carpenter to the 60-day injured list, and Bly Madriz to the 40-man roster. So there you have it. That's the latest. Now, as that relates to the Tigers' plan moving forward, does it give Scott Harris and the rest of this organization, this front office, more of the itch to go out and get a bat and a position player? Probably not. Again, just speaking candidly and honestly, I would be shocked if they do. And again, we talked a little bit about that yesterday, but it is kind of, you inch closer and closer to the edge of your seat and, you have your alerts set. Maybe a deal is done. You start to read some of those MLB hot rumor sites, those trade rumor sites. What direction could the Tigers be going? And as we get closer and closer to that July 30th date, it will continue to be a point of discussion. Now, other news on this Sunday, July 21st, Jim Leyland, arguably my favorite, and not even arguably, but one of the Detroit Tiger figures and just the staples of my childhood and everybody's, formative years watching the Tigers, depending on what age you are, everybody loved Jim Leyland. And the success he had as a manager and the longevity of his career, the success he had with the Marlins, with the Pirates, with the Tigers, the character that he brought to the game, the sound bites, the image of him smoking darts and cigs in the dugout. Jim Leyland is a guy that personifies everything that's right with baseball, and to see him go into the Hall of Fame today, exciting for any Tigers fan that grew up watching the Tigers, that you relive those moments that you see the highlights back from 2006. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it and the excitement, and then even in where the Tigers were in 2012, getting to the World Series. Jim Leyland just among the few that were responsible for not among the few, but at the top of the list of those that were responsible for those golden years of Tiger baseball. And we miss those days, but it was kind of fun reliving some of those moments today. So shout out to Jim Leyland. And I haven't watched his entire speech yet, but one of the highlights from that is when Jim Leyland recalled a coffee date with his wife, Katie, a couple weeks after being elected to the Hall of Fame. And he said, "Katie, could you believe in your wildest dreams that I'd be going to the Hall of Fame?" And his wife, Katie, replied, Jim, you're not in my wildest dreams. Classic, classic. We love that. Jim Leland bringing the humor to his speech. So great stuff there. But a special day for Jim Leland. He doesn't go in wearing any team's cap. So I think that's probably the right thing. But as Tony Paul, the Detroit News, noted on X, we love TP, that he mentioned more names and stories surrounding the Tigers than the other two teams. The Marlins, of course, he won the World Series with the Marlins, and of course, the Pirates, who managed Barry Bonds. There's that iconic footage of him and Barry Bonds just getting into that shouting match when Bonds was for the Pirates. Just lot. I mean, Jim Leland is a figure of Major League Baseball, and for him to get his due in the Hall of Fame today was awesome and stuff you mark on. Love to see. So great Hall of Fame speech by former Tigers manager Jim Leland, and no logo on his cap, like I mentioned, but I think we in Detroit can certainly feel good about claiming him as one of our all-time favorites and one of the most successful managers for the Tigers. And I don't want to get into this because there's too many good things to focus on. The fact he didn't win the World Series with the Tigers. But they went there twice. So the two AL pennants, and again, just responsible for the resurgence of Tigers baseball because they were just meddling in nothingness for so long before Jim Leland took over in the early 2000s. So shout out Jim Leland. We got one more segment on the program. We'll look ahead to that Cleveland series and tie a bow on the weekend. Tigers take 2 of 3 from the Blue Jays, but can't finish off the sweep today. They fall 5-4. Now 2 games under 500. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of the weekend coming up next. Locked On Tigers Postcast is brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook, and that is FanDuel. You got to check out FanDuel.com for all the latest odds. Get the bets going. You know the deal. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And we love FanDuel because, listen up, they are so generous over there at FanDuel because this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus every single day. Daily, my friends, daily, every single day. You know those old Nike t-shirts that used to say every dang day? That's right. That's what FanDuel is doing. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus every day. There's something for everyone all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most of your summer. And a reminder, FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. You can always find live odds at FanDuel.com. And don't forget, if you haven't yet, go ahead and bet Tarek Skubal to win the American League Cy Young. There's your free tip. It all happens at FanDuel.com. All right, appreciate everybody tuning in as always. It's a pleasure to be on the air with Locked On Tigers Postcast as we cruise into the final segment of the day, final segment of the weekend, and appreciate everybody welcoming me back. This is game number 3 to be on the air, which is always a pleasure because, again, had a good, nice little vacation, nice little time away around the All-Star break, but it's time to get back into it, and the Tigers are making it fun, although today they fall. Bummer there. Fall 5-4 to the Toronto Blue Jays. So let's look ahead to that final push before the trade deadline. When you look at the Tigers schedule as they start to deal with the reality of the injuries, as well as some of the difficulties in trying to form who's going to trot out there aside from, the healthy arms that they've got in Tarek Skubal and Keider Montero. Planned bullpen day for Tuesday, I believe, but 4-game series against the Guardians beginning tomorrow, 6:40 first pitch in the first 3 games, and then the day game, the 4th and final day on Getaway Day. That'll be a 1:10 start from Cleveland. And then after that, the Tigers will return home for a 3-game series against the Twins beginning on Friday. So over the weekend, they'll be at home against the Twins and then keep it rolling the following Monday and Tuesday to close out July against the Guardians at home before the Royals come to town, beginning with a Thursday game. That's a 4-game series against the Royals. So off day that Wednesday around the trade deadline. So Tuesday, July 30th is the Tigers and Guardians day game, and that's also the trade deadline. So we'll have a lot going on there on July 30th. But before that, 4 games in Cleveland against the Guardians, followed by 3 games at home against the Twins and 2 more against the Guardians at home. So a fun little stretch where you want to buckle up the seatbelt and dial it in, follow this team, subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit, and continue to pay close attention to what Scott Harris and the Tigers might be doing. I would love to see them make a move for a bat and now maybe even an arm with the uncertainty of Reese Olson. I know it's just the 15-day injured list right now, but hopefully that's all it is and he can be back in the rotation. But with the injuries that the Tigers have undergone, but kind of an interesting time in which they're playing really good baseball. So that'll be the key. What do the Tigers front office decide to do? And it's funny because everybody's got a different opinion on this. There's people that want you to trade Skubal because his value will never be higher. And teams like the Orioles and Dodgers will absolutely shell out and give you a king's ransom, maybe, or even the Red Sox, which is another one that floated around this past week. And then other opinions say, no, we're 2 games under 500. We're in the thick of the wild card conversation. All you have to do is get in. We want to see some meaningful baseball in September. It's been far too long. We can't just keep kicking the can down the road for this rebuild. At some point, you got to have homegrown talent. You got to invest and pay Tarik Skubal and make him the future of your organization. And to that, I agree. As I say that out loud, I can get on board with that more than the potential return that you could get from Tarik Skubal. Now, again, it's July 21st, trade deadline July 30th. A lot can change. And, it's one of those things in this biz, if you will, that as things progress, you can change your opinion. So that's where I'm at right now. But we'll see as the next couple of days and weeks leading into the trade deadline continue to play out. But that's going to do it for me. As always, appreciate everybody tuning in. Tigers take 2 of 3 from the Blue Jays and are now 49-51 after falling today 5-4. The Justyn-Henry Malloy grand slam, the only offense for the Tigers, but good to see Justyn-Henry Malloy playing as well as he has in that 3-hole spot today for the Tigers. And one of those things where, the grand slam was really exciting and gave the Tigers the lead, but they just could not hold on to it. Riley Green had a nice at-bat in the 8th inning. I forgot to mention that when I was recapping the game, but that put the 2 on for Carson Kelly, who just missed, giving the Tigers the lead or potentially even setting up the Tigers for the win in this one. Another horrible day for Javi. We talked about that enough. 0 for 4. And Gio Urshela at the bottom of the lineup, 1 for 4. But you know what? We turned the page on this one. Tigers have still won 10 of their last 13, 4 straight series. And now you head to Cleveland and you've got a little bit more of an attitude. You've got a swag. You've got a confidence. And hopefully that can continue to translate into series wins. And especially when you think of the last time the Tigers played the Guardians right before the All-Star break during the week, before that weekend series against the Dodgers, they played really good baseball. Even their loss, they were coming back and, they took 3 of 4 from the Guardians and had a chance to really take all 4. So let's hope the Tigers can once again, it's a 4-game series against the Guardians coming up this time in Cleveland. First pitch tomorrow night, 6:40 Eastern time. We'll be on the air afterwards for your Locked On Tigers postcast. Thanks as always for tuning in. We certainly appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit and tell a friend about it because, hey, it's a fun community to be a part of, especially as the Tigers start to play some meaningful baseball here leading into the trade deadline and hopefully continue to compete for the conversation around the wild card. So have a wonderful rest of your weekend, everybody. It's always a pleasure to be on the air, and we'll talk to you next time on Locked On Tigers postcast.